Welcome, I'm your host, Malcolm Gallagher. From our BizVision studios in the UK, you're watching the BVTV BizWyze Hospitality Channel. Now, you don't have to be an economic guru to know that the UK tourism and hospitality business, actually the world tourism and hospitality business, has been financially hurt through the impact of lockdown. But put yourself into the shoes of one of those businesses. It's more than the financial impact that has caused hurt. Hospitality is a very personal business, especially at the smaller end where guest house owners gain their own personal satisfaction and pride from the welcoming job that they do. I know because I've worked in this sector for over 40 years. Now, as we move towards hospitality recovery and hopefully growth, I thought it would be helpful for viewers, listeners, to understand a bit more about the passion and commitment that goes into being a successful business owner in hospitality. So I'm taking you to Alrewas, a beautiful village in Staffordshire, close to the city of Lichfield, close to the famous National Memorial in Arboretum. And we're going to meet the owner of award-winning Amber House. Welcome, Gill Jones.
Oh, Malcolm, it's lovely to see you, and thank you very much for inviting me.
It's delighted.
I'm delighted to join you. And yes, we are close to the National Memorial Arboretum. In fact, as the crow flies, it's just 4 miles away. And although at the moment, through the pandemic, I'm offering hospitality to key workers and essential workers, normally we would be full with visitors to the National Memorial Arboretum. And of course, you may not know that this opened, maybe about 14 years ago, with a view to catering for 25,000 people through the doors every year. And as you know, Malcolm, a couple of years ago, the new centre was opened, ready to cater for 300,000 visitors. With a view to that escalating to 600,000 visitors per annum. There are now, it's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, and I was there for the opening all those years ago. Jill, I'm delighted you're kindly guesting on our Enterprising BVTV BizWyze channel, which will also go out on our new Beds, Bars, Bites and Bookings podcast. In Beds, Bars, Bites, what a mouthful that one is, isn't it? Yes. Now, in this BVTV show, viewers and listeners, I'll be talking to Jill in 4 parts. First, I'll ask her about how COVID has impacted upon her small but award-winning business and what she's done to get through this particular challenge. In part 2, we'll talk about how she's planning for her business recovery. In part 3, I want to ask her about the future. Will it all go back to normal, or what changes she's made now in Amber House will she continue? And my part 4 is to ask her a little bit about a side business she's established, helping other establishments manage the COVID cleansing challenge. So, Jill, before we get into our 3-part talk, though, can you please briefly introduce yourself to my viewers and audience and tell us about Amber House? And the awards that you've won.
Oh, gosh. Well, Amber House is a 1920s traditional property. Built on land in Alrewas, which was originally owned by Lord Lichfield. It, if you want a biased view, it's the most warm, welcoming house. It's got it's the layout of the whole property lends itself very well to offering hospitality.
Yeah.
I have 4 bedrooms, and I would say that before the pandemic, I would be 90%. Occupancy on the 4 bedrooms, and this is with about 50% each of leisure and work, people who are working in the area. Out of interest, apart from loving cooking, I ended up entering a Tastiest Breakfast award, and it was a heart-stopping moment when I found out that I was in the final 10. Right. And then a phone call out of the blue said, would I go for a cook-off as one of 3 with a mystery celebrity chef who turned out to be Prue Leith. And this was just before she was on the popular TV show in the UK, but I've always been a great fan of hers. And it was a heart-stopping moment to find that I'd won.
Yes,
brilliant. And so that has been and I would advise anybody to go forward for that, because the whole process is so interesting, and you find that you rise to meet the challenge, and it was very exciting, but it has led to other things that you find that you're involved in. You know, for example, the Marmalade Awards up in Cumbria. And that actually started out of a pandemic, that awful crisis in 2012, when all the cattle had to be slaughtered.
Yes.
So the landowner there realized that the people in the countryside were totally devastated and they need something to hold on to, hence developing small artisan businesses, which, Malcolm, you know, we're going back to now, aren't we?
Without a doubt. Yeah.
So I ended up as a judge for the Marmalade Awards,
right.
which was a fabulous experience.
Yes. Yeah.
And this lady not only raises a large amount of money for charity, but has also been asked to open Marmalade Awards in Japan and Australia.
Wow. Wow. Now, these awards, we'll talk about them more as we get into the into our interview here. But they are exciting, and I will confess that having been, viewers and listeners, having been to Gill's Amber House a few times there, and the picture that you see on the screen of Amber House is my car outside. But Jill, let's start part one. How has COVID impacted upon your small but award-winning business, and what have you done to get through the challenge?
Okay, well, number one, you want to do something to help, and you're not quite sure how best to go about it.
Yeah.
Local businesses offering hospitality, or the chains, were closed. And I realized very quickly that I could accept people, and became part of a Help for Heroes scheme through my online diary managers, who are Evivo.
Right.
Through them, there were a series of webinars, and the daunting prospect of welcoming people through the door was lessened as we talked through the safety procedures and processes, and cut out the scaremongering in a way that made you progressively feel more confident for having people in your property.
Yeah. Yeah. And this was a lot to do with people coming to go to National Arboretum, was it?
Well, actually, the Arboretum was closed.
Right.
In fact, one of my first guests was a doctor from Myanmar who had coincidentally taken up a position in the orthopedic department in a local hospital. And he arrived as literally everything was up in the air.
Yeah, I understand who you mean by the heroes now, NHS in particular. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, I beg your pardon. We're just... Do you know, we seem to be talking a different language these days, don't we? And there are words that we're using that we didn't ever think about a year ago.
I know.
So, but when I say key workers, they were also, apart from in the medical profession, they were essential to the running of businesses locally. For example, some of them worked in the Tesco warehouse. On the maintenance side of a vehicle fleet service, so they worked through the night, and I knew from them that the warehouse was full and emptied every morning, because there were any number of vehicles coming into the warehouse during the night, and 24 vehicles going out, huge vehicles going out every day to serve the local supermarkets.
Yeah. How did you manage all of this operationally? Because I know Amber House, as I say, well there. You've got a fabulous breakfast in table there. Could everybody eat at breakfast at the same time, or what did you have to do?
Well, thank you, Malcolm. Actually, before, where I would be busy with 8 people around the table, clearly the table is of a size where I was comfortable with 2.
Yeah.
So one person at each end, and I don't mind how many sittings I do. Sometimes, particularly right in the very beginning, Malcolm, people were working really, really hard. It was a very pressured time. For example, there was a chat with a sanitizing company, and as well as we all do, that we couldn't get this product out quick enough. And there were a couple of nights he was working round the clock.
Wow.
to meet the demand. And in fact, he was the person who initiated and found a distillery to support the use of the alcohol that they needed, the grade of alcohol. So there was quite a lot going on. In terms of me managing, whereas I would normally have somebody in to help me every day just to make sure everything was on spec, I did it all myself. So by the time you've done the online Joe Wicks class, and and jolly along with that, you do. I'd got the housework workout, and I got the gardening workout. So it was a busy time, but of course then you're busy with 3 people and not 8. And they had a busy work schedule.
That's a big financial impact on you as well, isn't it?
Well, yes, Malcolm. Yes, I'd say.
It's easy for people to forget and say, "Oh well, Amber House is open," but when you're only catering for 3 instead of 8, that's quite a difference.
No. So I'd say 15 to 20%.
Yeah. Do you find it personally an emotional challenge? I mean, I know you're a resilient person. You would step up to the plate and everything, but did you find it emotional?
The Thursday night clap was very emotional. We where the house is, and for viewers who might not, we're on the service road at the side of the A38. I have to say there's a row of trees, and we're well cushioned and double, so there's that. But to go out on the side of this road and by the time you've got your Union Jacks and all the rest waving, and I've never been flashed so many times by lorries, and it was quite upsetting, they were beeping and but jollity apart, it's had its moments. And I think with everybody they would say there's been peaks and troughs. I have started cooking meals. Well, I always did.
Yes.
But obviously for people who may want supper in the evening and don't want to venture out or get involved in anything, I now have a menu which is regularly changed, and so that actually has provided another interest.
Okay, Gill, before we move to part 2, I'd like to remind viewers and listeners of your website URL, which obviously viewers you can see on the screen behind me, but for listeners, let me spell that out for you. And it is amberhousealrewas.com. Now, I'll help you with that with listeners. Amber, AMBER, house, and Alrewas is spelled ALREWAAS. So that's amberhousealrewas.com. And we'll talk about the other URL in part 4. Gill, time for part 2. Let's talk about how you're planning for your business recovery, you're in a great location for easily reaching attractions such as we've discussed, the National Memorial in Arboretum, the fabulous city of Lichfield with its beautiful cathedral, close to Burton-upon-Trent with the really interesting museum on brewery. How important do you think it will be to tell people about these attractions and events? Or do you think guests may continue to avoid big events or anywhere where there might be crowds? What's going to bring them back?
Yes, that's a good question, Malcolm. And I think people are keen to get back to a new normal, which is part of our new vocabulary. But they're nervous.
Yes.
They're nervous to book. So number one, I've made sure that my booking policy on the website is refundable as well as non-refundable, and that's clearly mentioned. I've adjusted the cancellation term because things at the moment seem to be happening at the last minute. And so people, obviously I don't have leisure guests, but people who are working in the area, their work schedule changes at the last minute. So you obviously need to accept this.
Yeah.
I haven't taken at the moment. I haven't taken deposits when people have booked, and which I think is only fair. And I've been perfectly happy to change dates. So that's that side. The other side is I think people are going to be keen to go to events, and I've got a new website. And there is a section in there with places to go and things to do. And I can tell you, Malcolm, I'm quite pleased. It's at the moment, it's 10 pages long.
Wow. Yeah.
with potential for growth.
Yes. Oh, there's always lots going around, down around there, isn't there? Yes, there's no doubt about it.
When I say 10 pages long, so for people who like walking, there's a section. Cycling, there's a section. On my list is the National Trust, and yes. I need to put that up because they're beautifully. There are loads of, I'd say about 15 National Trust properties within striking distance, and also on top of that, there's they're not National Trust, but we've got Blenheim Palace, Chatsworth, and Warwick Castle, and they're all a day trip. You know, they're all on the hours, the cusp of the hour, and you're going through beautiful countryside, whichever one you go to. Then, of course, the cathedral doesn't need any introduction. It's just wonderful. There are lots of things happening there. The brewery is wonderful in Burton-on-Trent, and that's just 4 miles the other way.
Yes.
Someone did say to me, you want to be careful coming to the Midlands because there's loads to do and you'll find that everyone will want to come and visit. Right. And I sort of smiled and thought, oh, okay, well, actually, it's worked out that way. But they're lovely. I mean, Alrewas, was built part of the first industrial or commercial canal in the country.
Yeah.
And there's a very lovely iconic place called Fradley Junction with a pub called the Swan, and locals call it the Mucky Duck. Yeah. And the towpath, I have to say, Malcolm, has just recently been restructured just during lockdown. And so it's been leveled, so it's a comfortable walking space, which gives plenty of room.
I particularly like Barton under Needwood, where you can go to the Barton Marina. And
yes, of course.
There's a fabulous pub there, I think, called Waterside or Water, something like that.
It's the waterfront.
That's right. And all the restaurants around and the boutiques, and there's a cinema, or just to watch the peacefulness of the canals. I think is really, really exciting down there.
Yes.
So, let's move to part 3. I want to ask you about the future for hospitality, and especially Amber House. Now, I personally think we will all have to be sensible for a very long time, even with us having, I've had my first vaccination and so on. Will it all go back to normal? What is normal? I don't think so. What changes have you made now, do you think, that you must or will continue?
The option for dining in,
Mm-hmm.
I'd always quietly done that, but it seems to have been very well received. But people can bring a takeaway in, and the option for making sandwiches for people to take away.
Yeah.
So there's obviously, I'm talking about food straight away, Malcolm. It's,
you're good at it. You're good at it.
But it's a service.
Yes.
And there's the flexibility. I'm trying to encourage a sort of experience. So people will enjoy the area for an experience that's being offered.
Yeah.
It's quite easy to, with the arboretums so close, there are a lot of people who are coming specifically for that experience.
Yeah, and that must have a backlog of events that it wants to do. Actually, we missed really the big World War I event, didn't we? And the World War II. Yeah, so much has been missed.
It's interesting that you said that, and I have to say that was one of my wobbly moments, because I didn't realise they were so unassuming, but because we missed the big commemoration for World War II.
Yeah,
the veterans with the seniority of their age couldn't wait another year.
No.
Which was why pretty much at the last minute, it was, so I understand, it was decided to celebrate victory over Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And unwittingly, the people that I'd got in the house at that time, and lockdown had just eased, so it wasn't quite as stringent as it's needed to be since then. But I had the most incredible house group of guests. One was a security officer for Prince Charles, and another, I didn't realise who he was until I turned the TV on and he was broadcasting with Dan Snow.
Right.
And I thought, well, I've just served him bacon and eggs.
Yes. Your guest house always has been a hotbed of cultural discussions and that.
Well,
I remember you told me there's a bishop sitting in one corner and somebody who's created a comedy program in another, and that's the beauty of what you've created there. Gill, now for part 4. You're an enterprising person. I saw a picture of you on Facebook dressed like a Ghostbuster with a machine to clean places of COVID. I thought, well, she's going a bit far just to clean.
Didn't mean to frighten you, Malcolm.
Yes. Tell me more about this side business of yours and what prompted you to start it.
Well, it was a result of the webinars and the discussions with regard to COVID, and obviously taking the cleaning very seriously. And right at the outset, if someone left on a Friday, the house would be empty for 2 days, or that room would be empty for 2-3 days until someone came back on the Monday. So I knew it was safe. But at the end of the day, I didn't really think that is good enough, because, I think there are 4 main potential risk areas, aren't there? You're talking about your touch points, you're talking about an atmospheric load, you're talking about how long someone has been in an area for, that creating that load, and how long they've been in direct contact with something. So and the difference of the material, whether it's a cloth or plastic or metal. And so there's a number of factors that you've really got to take into consideration. And it didn't seem good enough to just do what you might have done before.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so I first started to have a look at foggers, and I really became disillusioned with them. They clearly have a place, but they're a chemical base, and we're all supposed to be moving forward in an ecologically friendly way.
Planet, people, and profit. Yes.
So thank you. So I'm really proud to have found. Well, it looks like a Ghostbuster outfit, doesn't
Yes,
it? Because you've got a backpack, and if you know, for anyone who's ever seen that film, you're spot on. And they call it a wand, and it's a 68 micron nozzle, and the product that I have to use, it comes out, it exudes a fine mist.
Right.
And the beauty of this is that I can go into an area, the mist is exuded, and so there's no disruption, there's no taint, there's no smell, it's safe with food, and most importantly, the place is good to go in 15 minutes.
Wow.
It is wow.
Obviously using this for Amber House, but you're offering this as a service. Viewers and listeners, you can see it on the screen behind me to go and have a look at. It's covidclearengland.co.uk. That's covidclearengland.co.uk. It's a great initiative. It's not you doing all the ghost busting all the time, is it?
I've got helpers. I think it's a little bit of the royal we.
Right.
So
I'm with you. All right. So I'll just remind again, viewers and listeners, to pop along and have a look at Gill's initiative there, covidclearengland.co.uk. And what you can be very certain of is that when you do go to visit Amber House, it's going to be COVID clear. As the world of hospitality recovers from the pandemic, it'll not be an easy ride. Despite the initial clamour for a getaway, people are still going to have that very long-term suspicion. Many guests and customers will need extra reassurance on matters such as cleanliness. Authentic hospitality will rule. Thanks to Gill Jones of Amber House for a warm welcome that will be there. And of course, it will be COVID clear. Thanks, Gill.
Thank you.